Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasharanandana Braja Janaranjana Jasharanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Jagacharya Sutala Sata Shri Śrimad His Divine Grace of our Chandravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jaya Nityalila Bhavishta Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Jagacharya Sutala Sata Shri Śrimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Swami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Granta Raj Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki Nitai Gaur Premanandi All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, and Srila Prabhupada. So continued reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Volume 6, chapter titled, I Have Done My Part. July 22nd. In the morning, Tamal Krishna told Prabhupada that on the following day, Lord Jagannath would travel down Fifth Avenue in New York City. Lord Jagannath is very kind to the Malechas, Prabhupada said. Oriens are mostly Malechas, but still they are made pujaris. One devotee criticized an Orian, and Lord Chaitanya slapped him. Why do you criticize my servants? Just see his kindness. I prayed to Krishna, anyone who has given a little service, please bless him. And Krishna actually does. He doesn't forget any service done. Tamal Krishna inquired, doesn't Radharani also pray like that to Krishna? Yes, said Prabhupada. Radharani says, I am not sincere. Here is your real servant. That is Mahabhav. Krishna becomes a servant to his servant. Therefore, a disciple's first duty is to be submissive to his guru. Srila Prabhupada said to Tamal Krishna, all your devotees are very much grateful to you. Srila Prabhupada suddenly became immersed in thoughts of his devotees, and he became very ecstatic. Closing his eyes and rocking his head, he spoke with a choked voice and tears. Oh, your intense love for me, I am living for you. All over the world, everything is going on. Money is coming and being spent, and I don't have to worry. I am so much indebted, and I am taking so much service from you all. It is we who are indebted, said Tamal Krishna. There is no way we can ever repay this debt to you, Srila Prabhupada. That is a Brihat Mridanga, said Prabhupada. I am beating from this room, and the sound goes 10,000 miles away. Our enemies are surprised how this man is still going on. Srila Prabhupada went on appreciating how people in so many cities were enjoying the Rath Yatra festivals, seeing Lord Jagannath, and dancing and chanting. He remembered past Rath Yatras, such as 1969 in San Francisco, when some of the devotees were dancing joyously around a tree. He began recalling many other past wonderful experiences in ISKCON. Toward the end of July, Prabhupada's health seemed to be worsening again, and again he mentioned that the end might come at any moment. Tamal Krishna had been acting as Srila Prabhupada's personal secretary for 6 continuous months, and he had become Prabhupada's eyes and ears and his spokesman, especially in dealing with ISKCON management. And he had also become a personal confidant, assisting Srila Prabhupada in his transcendental moods. As a sincere servant, he now began suggesting a different remedy. Srila Prabhupada had recently been feeling and expressing intense devotion towards his disciples in their preaching. Taking this as a cue, Tamal Krishna suggested that if Prabhupada could travel to the West and be with his disciples, there he would find new life. But if I die, said Prabhupada, I want to do so in Vrindavan. Tamal Krishna replied that Srila Prabhupada should not think of dying. If he would go on a tour of the West, we see the devotees there, take prasadam made from food grown on the ISKCON farms, and certainly he would respond to such devotion and regain his appetite and strength. Tamal Krishna pointed out that when Srila Prabhupada had been feeling like this in May, and the GBC had come, he had responded to their reciprocation of love by increasing his own desire to live. One thing you can do, said Srila Prabhupada, in your daily routine you can pray to Krishna. If you want him to stay, please cure him, and if not, please take him away. We are fully surrendered to you. Now it depends on your desire to keep him alive or let him leave this world. Srila Prabhupada was pointing out that he was not a victim of some mundane moroseness, robbing him of a will to live. He had already said that he would be with Krishna in any case. Staying in this world or leaving, it was not up to him, but up to Krishna. He recited the prayer of King Kulashekara from the Mukunda Mala Stotra. My dear Krishna, please let me die immediately so that the swan of my mind can be encircled by the stem of your lotus feet, now while I am still strong. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked up, how will it be possible to think of you? Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, 3rd Canto, 21st Chapter, Text 20, Chapter titled, Conversation Between Manu and Kardama. Anaitad Bhatadisha Padang Tavepsatang. Anaitad Bhatadisha Padang Tavepsatang. Yan Maya Yanas Tanushe Bhuta Sukshmam. Yan Maya Yanas Tanushe Bhuta Sukshman. Anugrahayas Tapiya Himayaya. Anugrahayas Tapiya Himayaya. Lasatulasya Bhagavan Vilikshita. Lasatulasya Bhagavan Vilakshita. Please chant. Naitad Bhatadisha Padang Tavepsitang Yan Maya Yana Tunse Bhuta Sukshmang Anugrahaya Swapi Yahimayaya Lasatulasya Bhagavan Vilakshita Naitad Bhatadisha Padang Tavepsitang Yan Maya Yanastanuse Bhuta Sukshmam Anugrahasya Tapiya Himayaya Lasatulasya Bhagavan Vilakshitaha Naitad Bhatadisha Padang Tavepsitang Yan Maya Yanatanuse Bhuta Sukshmang Anugrahaya Swapiya Himayaya Lasatulasya Bhagavan Vilakshita Naitad Bhatadisha Padang Tavepsitang Yan Maya Yanatanuse Bhuto Sukshman Anugrahaya Stapiya Himayaya Lasatulasya Bhagavan Vilakshita Na, not, etat, this, bata, indeed, adisha, O Lord, padam, material world, tava, your, ipsitam, desire, yat, which, maya, by your external energy, na, for us, Tanushe, you manifest, Bhuta Sukshmam, the elements, gross and subtle, Anugrahaya, for bestowing mercy, Astu, let it be, Api, also, Yahi, when, Maya, through your causeless mercy, Lasat, splendid, Tulasya, with a wreath of tulsi leaves. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vilikshitaha, is perceived. Translation and purport by Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My dear Lord, although it is not your desire, you manifest its creation of gross and subtle elements just for our sensual satisfaction. Let your causeless mercy be upon us, for you have appeared before us in your eternal form, adorned with a splendid wreath of tulsi leaves. Please repeat. My dear Lord, although it is not your desire, you manifest its creation of gross and subtle elements just for our sensual satisfaction. Let your causeless mercy be upon us, for you have appeared before us in your eternal form, adorned with a splendid wreath of tulsi leaves. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is clearly stated here that the material world is not created by the personal will of the Supreme Lord. It is created by his external energy because the living entities want to enjoy it. This material world is not created for those who do not want to enjoy sense gratification, who constantly remain in transcendental loving service, and who are eternally Krishna conscious. For them, the spiritual world is eternally existing and they enjoy there. Elsewhere in the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, it is stated that for those who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this material world is useless. Because this material world is full of danger at every step, it is not meant for the devotees, but for living entities who want to lord it over the material energy at their own risk. Krishna is so kind that he allows the sense-enjoying living entities a separate world created by him to enjoy as they like. Yet at the same time, he appears in his personal form. The Lord unwillingly creates this material world, but he descends in his personal form or sends one of his reliable sons or a servant or a reliable author like Vyasadeva to give instruction. He himself also instructs in his speeches of Bhagavad Gita. This propaganda work goes on side by side with the creation to convince the misguided living entities who are rotting in this material world to come back to him and surrender unto him. Therefore, the last instructions of Bhagavad Gita is this: give up all your manufactured engagements in the material world and just surrender unto me. I shall protect you from all sinful reactions. Om Jnana Tamandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chaksuan Bhautamina Jai Shri Shivada Govinda. Ukam Karoti Bhatshalam Pango Mankai Tagaram Yakripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatanam. So are we the cause of the creation of the material world? Some people would say so after reading this verse. The Lord doesn't want to create. Someone thinks that Krishna has nothing better to do than to play God. But actually, he has nothing to do with the creation, actually. And it's all done through his external potencies, just to make a suitable arrangement for the living entities to carry out their karmic activities. And so we can see from this how important it is to grasp this understanding that we are the masters of our destiny. Not only that, we have the responsibility to alleviate this burden from just like Srila Prabhupada's there. He's only come to save the fallen conditioned souls in the mood of the previous acharyas, following the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as we're reading in Prabhupada's essay, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also not coming for any reason except to experience the mela which cannot be appreciated in any other situation. And that his secondary purpose is to perform Sankirtan. For the living entities, in order to gain access, this is the key. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantaschadudavrataha. This is the key to entering. We're very fortunate that Prabhupada has used this core principle in order to expand, the mercy of the Supreme Lord across the face of the globe. It's almost inconceivable. People who see it don't really appreciate it. And for us, we have to take it to that next level where Prabhupada is expressing this gratitude, and Tamal Krishna is correctly saying it, but it's actually us, obviously, who are fully indebted to the spiritual master, and to such an extent that it can never be repaid. And when one has this mood, then he never hesitates to engage in any service, understanding that this is coming ultimately by the arrangement of the spiritual master. None of this is happening. It's not that we decided to buy this building just for some comfortable place to domicile. All of us are coming from some situation. Some of us may be coming from a very high situation. Some of us are coming from a middle situation. Some of us are coming from a very low situation. you know. But the bottom line is that we had a situation prior to coming here. And so we have to adopt the mood that this facility is an essential. It's like what they used to use in the past. They used to have something called the Underground Railroad. At a time during this Civil War, they needed to move devotees, not devotees, but persons who were trapped in a situation that was unbearable to a place of safety. So this is similar to our mission. We are also capturing and guiding these fallen conditioned souls to a better situation. And this is just one station. Now there are thousands of temples all across the globe. And each one has the same purpose, same mission. And so we have an opportunity to engage in this para upakara, the highest welfare activity. There's nothing higher. To bring a person into contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead through His holy name, through His deity form, through prasadam. This is whatever. There's nothing higher. And once we grasp that, then everything we do is connected to that, and we never feel disconnected. And sometimes you see that. I'm thinking, well, what am I doing here? I'm not really doing, I'm just washing the pots. Or I'm just doing this, This disconnect is due to a lack of this dedication to the mood of the spiritual master. You haven't quite grasped it yet. I am a servant, and the servant adopts completely whatever the mood of the spiritual master is. He doesn't walk around in some opposite mentality, trying to inject his own whatever mental speculation or to create something. Everything has to be harmonious. We have no need to make up anything. Everything has been brought to us perfectly, transmitted by Srila Prabhupada, by his merciful coming to New York City. This is an unbelievable situation in regards to, who can imagine a greater gift and opportunity? But we have to acknowledge that. There has to be some gratitude. This way there's without that gratitude, then ultimately there's no reciprocation. If you give somebody something, they don't acknowledge it. They just treat it very casually. They throw it on the counter or on the desk someplace. How would that make you feel? This person, I'm giving something, and this person is not acknowledging, not reciprocating, not even a thank you. Just, oh, okay, like this. So, what to speak of what Srila Prabhupada has given us? It's the most valuable opportunity in the human form of life. We pray every day as Hamsarupa Bhavanali Loka, but do we appreciate what is that merciful rain? Prabhupada said, when there's a forest fire, nothing can extinguish it except the cloud filled with water. And you see sometimes these puny attempts to extinguish these raging fires in places like California. They go on for days and days, and just the Agni consumes everything in his path. Nothing is spared. All, what do they say? Up in smoke. But if there's rain, and they try, but they can't do anything. They're not Krishna. If the rain comes, then everything is immediately put out, extinguished. So this is the spiritual master's presence in the material world. Nothing can extinguish this blazing fire of material existence. Nothing. And so when the pure devotee appears, those who are intelligent, they immediately accept that finally I have my salvation. You know, he doesn't question that, well, you know, what is that? Even some stories are there like, you know, what is that? I sent you the boat. I sent you the people to rescue you. I sent you the helicopter. I sent you so many things. Why didn't you accept them? Now he's talking to whatever, God in heaven. I sent you all these things, but you didn't take it. So in this way, we see that there are so many opportunities. Every day is an opportunity to accept salvation, right? But this is not just like, you know, the salvation has become a mundane term. You know, it's like Salvation Army. You know, but what are their activities? You know, these are not transcendental. Real salvation means mukta sangasya jayate, the permanent salvation. You know, one is completely freed, and it can happen in an instant. Just like everyone who came, they had to stop those 4 sinful activities: no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling. These pillars of sinful life are the bane of material existence. Everywhere you see, it doesn't matter. All these things are ruining so-called civilization, as if it can be ruined anymore. But all these members of the Hare Krishna society, they've immediately stopped these things. So just imagine how merciful, you know, the parampara to dedicate entirely their lives without, you know, any thought for themselves, practically speaking. You see the pictures of the Goswamis, they walk around kopina, you know, just wearing loincloth, not caring for any discomfort, with, you know, such a pressing mission to record for posterity, you know, these essential instructions for mankind. Not just for, you know, they're for devotees now because we can call ourselves by that name. But they're writing for all of mankind to assist them in becoming devotees. It's not an exclusive club. We want to expand it everywhere. Prabhupada, he wrote a letter to Mayor Lindsay, who was a mayor in New York City when I was young. Very charismatic fellow. He was a customer in my aunt's restaurant. So he used to go, and Prabhupada said, I have the solution for this disaffected youth, you know, immersed in intoxication, illicit sex, and all other nonsense. You just have to direct them to me. They were trying all these rehabilitation centers, and Prabhupada said, I can do all this. Look what I've done. And it was acknowledged that Prabhupada was successful in every respect, socially, spiritually. And still it's there, the opportunity. Dayananda Prabhu was also thinking how to reach out to these young folks and find some hook to catch them. But any hook you catch, it has to be followed up, just like when you're fishing. I know none of you here are all pure devotees, you've never been fishing. But once you set the hook, you have to reel the fish in. You know, so this is the point. You set the hook, you have a hook, but unless they come all the way in, and you put them in the boat of the Vedas, of ISKCON, right? There's that analogy that ISKCON is the boat, and the Vedas are the favorable breezes, and Srila Prabhupada is the captain. So you have to get these people on the boat. And you can't just leave them on the line. You got to reel them in. So this is something that all devotees should be aware. It's not that we just have casual conversations. In my former profession, when you're want to get information, and you're talking to someone, they don't call them interrogations. Interrogations is for law enforcement. Private investigators conduct interviews. And an interview, by definition, is a conversation with a purpose. It's not just, bantering back and forth. No, it's a conversation with a purpose. And what is that purpose? The purpose is to give this person Krishna consciousness in the form of a book, form of prasadam, form of invitation to the temple. That's the purpose of the conversation, not just to make nice with them and like that. Because that, unfortunately, is the tendency, is that, you want to impress somebody with your own whatever. We want to impress them with Srila Prabhupada. That's who we want to impress them with. And it's very easy to do that. When they realize that this one person wrote all these books, everyone is amazed. So if you read this book, your life will be changed. I can guarantee it. You get that person to take science of self-realization. Or even we had the young lady the other day who came, who read all of Prabhupada's books, but what did she start with? Reservoir of Pleasure. Reservoir, printed right here in Brooklyn originally. ISKCON Press, 32 Tiffany Place. So this is, and we distributed tens of thousands of these Reservoir Pleasures. And so many people became devotees just by reading this one pamphlet. How did they become? They didn't just immediately shave up, but their journey began. It brought them to the temple. It made them, it heightened whatever inquisitiveness they had about knowing the absolute truth. Because it was, the information in the Prabhupada's essay like this was so succinct. This is that we've discussed before. When you want to transmit information, you use code because it's confidential. And so the Vedas are written, they're sutras. And so sutra literally is defined as code. And not just code, but condensed code. So great meeting in a small container. And probably so even one verse, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, one of his pastimes was he lectured for 3 months in one verse. 3 months. Just to show, just to demonstrate how much information was contained and he expanded. And that's common. People always say, let me expand this for you. Let me unroll this for you. Let me, it's a very common thing, It's just you get some small thing and you have to explain it to people. So this is all being explained to us by the mercy of the pure devotee. Otherwise, we have no access. And what is that access? Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevya. Prabhupada was saying in the Lilamrita, by submissive service and inquiry, then one gets the favor of the spiritual master. And isn't that what everyone wants ultimately? It's not that we can say, yes, I want to please Krishna. Every day the pujaris are on the altar, and what are they doing? They're constant meditation. How can I please Krishna? How can I decorate him nicely so that he is satisfied, that in our humble attempt to glorify him, that we have achieved this one aspect of our service. So when you look at, just like Srila Prabhupada's smile, if anyone wants to see Prabhupada's smile, he's smiling with his whole existence. You look at the picture of him offering the first artik to Krishna Balaram in Vrindavan. There's a monumental achievement. What are they, in the Lilamrita sometimes you see, Prabhupada's smile is oceanic. That's how Prabhupada's smile is defined, oceanic. It just takes everything in. You feel like this is the culmination of my attempts to please the spiritual master, that his pleasure is our satisfaction. But we have to carry that mood with us. We can't abandon it, can't keep it for 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day or during the Bhāgavatam class or only when I'm cooking or only when I'm on the altar. No. That mood has to constantly guide us through all of our daily activities. It has to be present. It's not that I have to keep repeating it in my mind. It's not some brainwashing, mechanical thing. But you have to adopt it. You see people that when you realize that this person has fully absorbed himself in whatever he does. Whether it's a musician, people can commonly point to a musician. Because they get into something so much so that they lose themselves in the music. They're fully absorbed. And this is a mundane activity, but yet they become so involved. But that is the same intensity that the devotees need to have, but on a gradual, time-released manner, like the vitamins say. You take this vitamin, it's time-released. We use it throughout the day, gradually. And then at certain points we can muster up some intensity if necessary. That's there on a regular basis. We do it every day, every morning. But to become disconnected mentally from our activities, from our association, from our obligations, this is what creates this dichotomy, this duality. I'm different I'm really not a part of it. Somehow or other I'm just kind of like when you're in school, you may or may not identify with the class or the school or the institution or the teacher. I'm just there to get my paper and go out in the material world like that. So we should not be thinking along those lines. Sometimes that mood sets in that I'm just passing through. We are passing. We're all passing through the material world. And if you don't grab onto the lotus feet of the spiritual master and Krishna, yes, you will pass through. You will pass through right over the edge, down into the hellish planets, back into the samsara, cycle of birth and death in 8,400,000 species of life. You will pass through. But that's not what we're here for. If you've understood anything, then you should try to build on that understanding with intensity. And focusing it that now that I have come to this situation, let me take full advantage. Let me never leave. Let me never express this negative understanding, which has counterproductive to spiritual life. And this is, it stems from this false ego, this pseudo-intellectualism, thinking that, no, I have to understand it with my mind, But Krishna, he gives us the hint. He says, this is the king of education, most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. So there's direct perception of the self. Who else has given even a hint that we are not these bodies? Sometimes you see people in the New Age, they say, we're all spirit, we're all this, we're that. But what do they know about spirit? They may see, there's so many people say, yes, you're not this body. Okay, but what are you? You're some infinitesimal spark waiting to be liberated and become God again. It's a complete misunderstanding. But the only perspective, the Vedic perspective, sadhu, shastra, guru, is the only thing that coalesces all these seemingly disconnected aspects that we remember from our previous lives, that we've heard from various, parties or religions that we've dabbled in. Nothing brings it all together except Krishna consciousness. And so this understanding has to be your everyday, whatever you want to call it, mood when you wake up and you chant the names of the deities. As soon as you're conscious and you wake from that dreaming state, as soon as that alarm rings, Jai Radha Govinda, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Nrsingadeva, okay, the day begins. That's it. You know, you have to make this the part of the routine. It's a standard. You know, this is how every devotee rises. He immediately thinks of the deity. Because I'm a servant of the deity. I have duty to perform. I have to get prepared. I have to get ready. You know, I can't, just linger, taking my time when there's things to be done. Has to be that sense of urgency. Just like we have this huge festival tomorrow. For some, it will be your first Gaur Purnima. And there will be hundreds and hundreds. There'll be people here like that tonight. Some people who can't come tomorrow will come tonight. So we're expecting the same thing, 300 or 400 people tonight, an equal amount tomorrow. So back to back, because we have, you see that this is by Prabhupada's arrangement, by 60 years of preaching, this is the result. And we have to accept the responsibility. It's very easy when there's only 10 people in the temple and you have a Sunday feast and there's 10 people. Not a lot of pots to wash, not a lot of prasadam to cook, not a lot to clean up. But things don't stay. If you're actually effective in your preaching, then we're expanding continuously. And it's only going to get bigger. It's not going to get smaller. So if someone's thinking that there's a headache, then what's their mood? Are they here for themselves, for their comfort, or are they here to satisfy the spiritual master's mission? So we have to also be in a favorable mood in order for that mission to expand. If Krishna thinks that we're not ready, then of course, it'll be restricted. We have to have that constant prayer that whatever you want, whatever Krishna wants, whatever Lord Chaitanya wants, whatever the spiritual master wants, I'm ready to facilitate, with my mind, body, and words. And this, and everything philosophically is meant to bring you to this understanding. It's not meant to make you a PhD in Vedic conclusion. It's meant to bring you to the point to willingly serve the spiritual master. Once you've understood, how much understanding do we need? But some people require a constant affirmation and reaffirmation and reaffirmation. So this should not be us. We're in the mature state of realization. We should not require much secondary convincing. This is we've accepted. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Srila Prabhupada is his pure devotee, and therefore we can just move on from there and just accept that, yes, okay, I'm ready to do whatever. Prabhupada said, do the needful. And I'm happy that this wasn't a very philosophical verse that required much explanation, because all of you are already on that platform of beyond the necessity for intense philosophical conviction. But we'll read it again. Text 20, the conversation between Manu and Kardama in the 3rd canto, 21st chapter. My dear Lord, although it is not your desire, you manifest this creation of gross and subtle elements just for our sensual satisfaction. Let your causeless mercy be upon us. For you have appeared before us in your eternal form, adorned with a splendid wreath of tulsi leaves. Any questions, or comments, corrections, suggestions? Mr. Natabar, oh, he's got his laptop open. He's going to drill down.
Something you said earlier just reminded me of a little something that you were saying that something about we shouldn't let our minds get like the best of us. And I heard one time that it's like we need we shouldn't just be like dully doing something. Like our mind should be convinced of it, but we also should understand that the process is not fully dependent on our minds. It's like for our consciousness, for our heart. So like our mind should be subservient to that.
But for the most part, actually, we have to ignore our mind until it's, fully in line with our whatever realization we're attempting to achieve. So that I'm convinced of the necessity for purification. So therefore, I don't mind washing the pots. My mind may rebel, but I know that for purification purposes, I should continue the process, just like taking a bath. One cannot be discouraged because the more he washes, he sees the dirt come out. Sometimes you see that, right? Samakshriya said was washing the mop. And it looks clean, but then you put it down a few times and more dirt comes out, and more dirt comes out, and more dirt comes out. So this is our situation. We should never be thinking that I am clean, philosophically, spiritually, whatever, that I've achieved the ultimate and I can stop this purificatory process. And some people think like that. They think I don't need to go to Mangalarti. I don't need to chant japa. I don't need to do this or do that. No, I'm okay. I'm okay. You're okay. I won't bother you. Don't tell me I have to come to Mangalarti. Don't wake me up. What is that? I was looking the other day on the inside of the gong. It said, don't use this near room 410. Chaitanyananda, that's your room, right? On the inside of the gong, it says, don't use near 410. No, I know who wrote it. Because someone in that room doesn't want to wake up when the gong is there. They think, I'll just get up on my own. But that doesn't always work. That's why in the ashram, Prabhupada said, you ring the bell. So you ring the bell, you bang the gong. It's the same thing. But if your mind becomes upset because of that gong ringing, then you need to fix that. You need to fix it. But some people think, no, I don't need to fix it. I'm okay on my own. But when you have that attitude, that I'm okay on my own, then Krishna will send you such a test that you cannot pass without assistance. And because you've already rejected certain aspects of association, it will not come to you. This is just a fact. It happens all the time. People isolate themselves because they don't want to be corrected or constructively criticized or given advice or even encouragement. They get that attitude, no, I don't need you. I'm chanting my rounds. Like that. But what are the quality of those rounds? It's not a mechanical thing. I don't know. Sometimes there's a disconnect. We get to use that word a lot, disconnect. But that's a fact because there's no synchronization, there's no harmony. Everything has to be there. Mind, body, words has to be in that line. So it's like Vacha Vegam, Manasakroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udara Pasta Vegam. Everything is in a straight line. You have to control the urge to speak That's the first one. And then the second one, what? The mind's demands. Everybody wants to just, immediately give some retort. Because nobody likes to be challenged. Everybody wants to just hear themselves. Like the croaking, Baba uses the analogy of the croaking of the frog attracts the black snake of death, the Kalasarpa, compared to time. You're just talking and talking. You see, and what happens now is people walking, they're walking and looking at their phone. And they're literally talking. You see them, in the old days, if someone was talking to themselves on the street, we knew they were crazy. Now you see everybody's talking to themselves, but they're not really. They're talking to someone on their headset, which is buried in their ear so you don't know. So they look like just a crazy person walking down the street just like that, but they're not paying attention to their surroundings, and they walk in front of a truck. And that's it. That's the end of the line for that individual. Totally distracted. So we cannot, speaking is just to hear yourself is the greatest distraction. But many people do it as a defense mechanism, to either show off or to just to not have to engage in a two-sided conversation. They just want you to hear them. They don't want you to hear back. So yeah, we have to be careful in every circumstance by examining what the correlation is between these different, why control the urge to speak. And of course, we should all know by now why we control the mind's demands. Because the mind is always giving us some alternate suggestion. We used to, 55th Street was a big temple. This temple is not as big. Half the size, less than half the size. The other building was 11 stories, 2 basements. There were almost an infinite number of places to hide. If you didn't want to do your service, temple commander really didn't have the time to waste to look for you. Just get someone who would do the service. And so you could just be in Maya, But is that good for you, though? No. Prabhupada used to give the example of Dalhousie Square. When you go to Calcutta, you'll find there's one big, it's like an open area. Dalhousie Square, very famous in Calcutta, like Chowringhee, the main street, old Calcutta. And the peons, in the old days before electronic communication, and in India, especially, the telephones were terrible, they would have messengers. They still, even in New York, they would have messengers. In Wall Street, you have messengers. You get an envelope with a bunch of stuff, and you got a bunch of signatures. Every time you go to one place, somebody has to sign it. So it's the same thing. They would go, the peons would carry the envelope with whatever the communication was. They had to go to some place, but instead of going to that location, they would go to Dalhousie Square and sleep. Then they would come back at the end of the workday, and the paper's empty, and the boss would ask, well, what happened? And they'd say, oh, he wasn't here, or they didn't make some excuse. And what are they thinking? They're thinking that I'm getting paid for sleeping, so I'm in the positive. See? They feel satisfied that, I slept and got paid. So we don't want that mood should not be there. That let me try to avoid service. Just the opposite should be there. We should always be looking for service, but it's difficult, in Kali Yuga. We're so conditioned. We have this tendency to just, let me just do what I can do, Prabhu. They always say Prabhu too, don't forget to put that at the end. Let me just do it. So this we should all, because you'll all be temple presidents someday, or sannyasis, or gurus, or whatever. You have to be aware of how the different manifestations. And yes, we appreciate that everyone is on a different level in Krishna consciousness. And some people here, but The reason that we understand how it's not something that's time-bound is that you can get a new person who comes in who's so enthusiastic to serve, and it never stops. And after 5 years, you see that same person is still eager to serve and making advancement. And again, in 5 years, like when Prabhupada met, these certain devotees like Gaur Govinda Maharaj or Bhakti Churu Maharaj, ready immediately to engage full time, full attitude, full mentality, full consciousness in spiritual life, just ready. So it doesn't have, doesn't have to do anything with time. I mean, then you see somebody who's been there for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, and they're just kind of like cruising, And why? Where's the, so anyway, this, just so you can appreciate that we should try to do the best that we can, be the best that we can, and not try to just pass the time in Dalhousie Square sleeping. We should just, or up in the ashram, or down in Balaram Hall, or, there's a few places here we found that where people were hiding out. We found someone in the boiler room, in the back of the boiler room. It's very, so, don't try to be separate. Try to foster these relationships with your brothers. And you will immediately, if you're intelligent, you will immediately see the benefit. But once you connect with devotees like that, then you have to also assist each other in their advancement in spiritual life. Don't be the anchor. There's that famous analogy Prabhupada gave a lecture on about the wedding party. Everyone's heard that. You've heard that story yet? Haven't heard that? So, in India, one common means of transportation is by river. So the boatmen, you can cross the Jalangi, you can cross the Ganges, you can go to Navadvip, you can go to Swarupganj, wherever, you get on the boat. So this wedding party, they had to be by the next day at the, because they go from village to village. Go to the bride's village, you go to the groom's village, whatever. So the wedding party gets on the boat at night. And all night, and they're just, sometimes these wedding parties get a little funny, there's some drinking or some carrying on. It's loud singing, nobody's paying attention. And the boatman is rowing, and he's rowing, and he's rowing, and he's rowing, and rowing. And the light comes, the dawn breaks, and they look around, and they're in the exact same place where they were, because they forgot to pull the anchor. And so all night they were rowing, but they were in the same place. So Prabhupada's saying, at least lift your anchor. At least lift your anchor. Whatever that anchor is, there's many. Attachment to family, attachment to money, attachment to prestige. All these things are there, all anarthas. But they're anchors. They're keeping you tied down in the material world in one place. You have to at least lift your anchor, Prabhupada said. Seek the association of more advanced devotees. Don't just try to stay in a very, familial platform where, you can just joke around with each other and just feel comfortable because there's no pressure, to go read or to go chant or to do something other than just prajalpa. You have to, this is the only way. We're very fortunate that we had such opportunities, that there's so many senior devotees. And they're always willing to give some association. But you have to seek it. You have to seek it. If they're giving a class, then you have to go to the class. If they're giving some seminar, then you attend that seminar, whatever it is. But if you're thinking already that I know everything, then you already disqualified yourself. That you don't appreciate that Krishna can speak through that person. And he may have some realization that I don't have. And because I don't go to listen, I'll never have it, except maybe on my own at some point, right? What is that? Third-class intelligence. First-class intelligence is by hearing. Second-class intelligence is by experiencing. And third-class intelligence is what? No, second-class is by seeing others. Third-class is by personal experience. You have to, that's the school of hard knocks. I have to experience it on my own. I didn't hear it from the authority. I didn't understand it. I didn't appreciate it. And I didn't see it. I didn't observe it in such a way that it made an impression on me, even though I saw that this person, when he did this, he was severely punished. Still, I had to go. And Prabhupada said, the thief always knows that there's a danger of being arrested, being incarcerated, but still he steals. So don't be like that. Don't ignore, the opportunity to gather first-class intelligence by hearing. It's all around. This movement has cumulative, there's hundreds, there's thousands of devotees with decades of experience that you can take advantage of, if you want, if somebody wants. So that's important point. Thanks to Natabar for asking the question. Any other questions? Because we have a lot to do today. Bhakti Ryan?
Very quickly, maybe. Thank you so much for the class. Could you say something about how we could prepare for Gora Prem? Because you said, there's so many new people, like myself, I've never experienced this. What's a nice way to prepare our consciousness?
Come a little closer, Ryan, because even though the microphone, it just reverberates and you can't really hear it. So hold it a little bit further away so I can hear you. I want to give full attention to your question.
How can we prepare for Gora Prem? Prepare our consciousness.
How can we prepare for Gora Prem? Yes. Well, you seek out Gopal Champu, or because Prabhu is not here, or anyone else who's already doing some aspect of that, because there's multiple. Look, we just finished by Kuna Avatar's mercy, all the floors, all the furniture has to be put back nicely without dragging it and scratching it, and then we have to arrange down in the kitchen. There'll be so much to do today for both days, cut up and preparation. It's a continuous, today is a day of continuous services. It's not a day to say, well, Prabhu, my schedule only says I have to do 2-hour service today. I guarantee you'll hear that. Not me, because I'm going to turn it over to Gopal Champu. He'll have to hear it, because he's more expert at giving a response. And what does Krishna say? Ye yatamam prapadyante. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. But that verse has to be there in your mind all the time. You can't just ignore it. Yes, you can ignore it at your own peril. You can. If you're for Krishna 2%, then he's for you 2%. If you're for him 1%, then he's for you 1%. So out of 24 hours, if you're for Krishna 25%, just you make the calculation. I can only do 5 hours service. I can only do 4 hours. I can only do 6-hour service. No problem. Krishna says, no problem. He's not worried. He's got everything. He's in Goloka or Gokul. He's enjoying with the gopis and the cowherd boys. It just says here, he unwillingly made this place. So he's already detached. But if you look to him, you try to understand, then you can go back. But you have to try. And that trying means doing. That's what Prabhupada said. Devotees sometimes would come to Prabhupada and say, Prabhupada, I'm trying. Prabhupada didn't like this half-hearted stuff. The movement didn't expand by half-hearted. He said, trying means doing. That's very clear. He was way ahead of these motivational speakers, like that. Prabhupada knew exactly what to say. He had a huge audience, you know. And basically by remote management, which people are doing now, but not to the level or to the success that Prabhupada had, you know. They have a bunch of people, you know, but they're like automatons. They're not able to do anything except sit behind a terminal and, you know, punch in lines of code. You know, where Prabhupada set each individual out, and then according to their desire, their dedication, their realization, they went out and they made devotees. And so therefore this movement spread. And why does it say that a Vaishnava is known by how many Vaishnavas he makes? It's not a contest. It's just a fact. You know, that you, by your desire to spread this message, Krishna will put you in contact. You know, the book distributors, they're doing their job. They're passing out these books. And people are becoming devotees just by receiving a pamphlet. But then there has to be a temple. Prabhupada said the temple is the only reason we have a temple, Prabhupada said, is to make devotees. It's the only reason. So that's our duty, you know, is to make devotees. You know, this is to create the facility, to maintain the facility so that when people come, they see that this is a place where I can find shelter. Ashram means shelter, spiritually, materially, you know, even economically. I can find whatever I need, I can get. Right? Anything else, Bhakti Rain? So you ready? Okay, 24-hour service, round the clock. Today's a big day, today and tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll have nice Abhishek at 6 p.m. Such a wonderful thing. And I think Nadabar is going to be doing a drum demonstration with the kids. That's going to be part, because the drama, too many people work on Gaur Purnima. They won't. So the drama's postponed for 2 weeks. And they'll do it on not this next Sunday feast, but the Sunday feast after. Or is it? No, it's next week, the 12th. Yeah, so it's next week. Maybe next week, whatever that is. Yeah, the 12th. Any other questions, Prabhus? Thank you for allowing me to speak something on Śrimad Bhāgavatam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Grantharaj Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki. Sri Shivada Govinda Dev ki. ISKCON New York City ki. Gaur Premanandi.